Gaius Valerius Maximus was 32 years old that September evening. He had been a gladiator for 14 years, surviving far longer than the average lifespan of 3 to 5 years that most gladiators endured before death or crippling injury ended their careers. His story had begun in Gaul. He was born free, the son of a blacksmith in a village near Lugdunum. When he was 18, Romans accused his father of tax evasion. The penalty was enslavement of the entire family. His father was sent to mines where he died within months. His mother and sister were sold to household in Rome, and Gaius, young and strong, was evaluated as suitable for gladiatorial training and sold to Litus, a gladiator school. He learned to kill efficiently. His trainers recognized his talent for reading opponents and adjusting tactics mid-combat. He fought as a murmillo, heavily armored with a large shield and short sword, and his style was defensive and patient, waiting for opponents to make fatal mistakes rather than taking unnecessary risks. This approach kept him alive when flashier fighters died seeking crowd approval. But 14 years of killing men in front of screaming crowds had destroyed something essential in him. He functioned, he trained, he fought, but he felt nothing except exhaustion and a distant awareness that the person he had been at 18 no longer existed. The reward system had evolved during his career. Earlier, victorious gladiators received monetary bonuses. But, as the supply of prisoners increased with Vespasian's various campaigns, arena officials began offering access to female captives as alternative compensation. Many gladiators preferred this. Money could be stolen or taxed, but the experience of dominating a woman who had been enemy nobility felt like genuine victory in lives otherwise defined by servitude. Gaius had claimed this reward before, 3 times in the past 2 years, and each experience had left him feeling worse than the previous one. The first time he had convinced himself the woman was an enemy who deserved what happened. The second time, that justification felt hollow. The third time he had looked into terrified eyes and seen his own sister's face, imagining what had become of her in whatever Roman household now owned her. Now he stood in Livia's cell, watching her pull back against the chains, seeing the expression he had learned to recognize. Not quite resignation, not quite defiance, something between acceptance and silent screaming. She did not beg. Dacian nobility trained their daughters not to show weakness before enemies. But her hands were shaking, and he could see she was bracing herself for violation she knew was coming because that was what always came in these chambers. The system was designed for it. The room itself announced its purpose through the iron rings, the bench, the drainage. Gaius stood there for a long moment, and something in him that had been dying slowly for 14 years finally broke completely. He thought about his sister. He thought about his mother. He thought about every woman he had known before Rome turned him into this thing that killed for entertainment and claimed human beings as prizes. He did not touch Livia. Instead, he sat down against the opposite wall, as far from her as the small cell allowed. He spoke in broken Dacian, words he had learned from prisoners during the campaigns. "I am not going to hurt you." She did not believe him. Why would she? But he kept talking, his voice low and steady. He told her about his village in Gaul. He told her about his family. He told her he remembered what it meant to be human before the arena made him into something else. Hours passed. The guard did not return immediately. Protocol gave gladiators privacy for their rewards. Gaius sat against that wall and talked until his voice grew hoarse, and slowly, very slowly, he saw the absolute terror in Livia's eyes begin to shift into confusion, then into desperate hope that maybe, impossibly, she would survive this night intact. When the guard finally returned near dawn to collect the prisoner and return the gladiator to his quarters, he found them sitting on opposite sides of the cell. Gaius exhausted but calm, Livia still chained but unharmed. The guard's confusion was visible. This was not protocol. This was not how the system worked. But Gaius was a valuable gladiator, and the guard was not about to question a man who had killed 47 opponents in the arena. He unlocked Livia's chains and led her back to the holding cells where other Category 3 prisoners waited. The administrative records show no notation of anything unusual. The transaction was recorded as completed according to standard procedures. What happened to Livia after that night is documented in fragments. Arena records show she was reassigned to household slavery rather than being returned to the prisoner pool for future rewards. This was unusual enough that it appears in administrative notes, though no explanation is given. Gaius continued fighting for 3 more years until 76 AD, when he finally earned enough victories to purchase his freedom. He disappeared from historical records after that, one more freedman vanishing into the anonymous masses of the empire. But before he left, he used part of his accumulated earnings to purchase the freedom of one female slave from a Roman household, a Dacian woman named Livia, who had once been Category 3 prisoner number 417. The transaction appears in manumission records discovered in 19th century excavations, one line in thousands of documents, easily missed unless you are looking for it. The system did not change because of Gaius's choice. Thousands of other women suffered in those chambers exactly as designed. The practice continued for decades, evolving and adapting, but never disappearing entirely until the arena itself finally closed centuries later. But this one moment, this one gladiator who looked at the machinery of empire and chose humanity over the reward he had been promised, matters because it reveals something essential. The system was evil, but individuals within it still possessed the capacity for moral choice, even when that choice cost them everything the system offered. Even when choosing mercy meant rejecting the only compensation available for a life of violence and servitude. Even when compassion seemed meaningless against the weight of institutionalized cruelty. We remember Rome for its engineering, its law, its contributions to Western civilization. But we must also remember the chambers beneath the Colosseum, the women chained in darkness, the systematic machinery designed to destroy human dignity in the name of entertainment and political control. And we must remember that even in the heart of that darkness, some individuals found the strength to be human when the empire demanded they be monsters. What do you think when we celebrate ancient civilizations? How do we balance architectural achievement against moral horror? How do we honor the few who chose differently without minimizing the suffering of the thousands who had no choice at all? Share your thoughts in the comments. These conversations matter because the questions they raise about power, humanity, and moral choice echo across every century, including our own.